Okay, thank you so much for coming, everyone. My name is Dixie Patrick. I'm the Interim Executive Director for the Austin Independent Business Alliance, and I appreciate you being here. Seed Terranova is also here on the line with us. Seed is the director of our AIBA's program, which is a geographically focused program of high concentrations of local business in town. So thank you for being here, Seed. I appreciate you. I'm going to do a few housekeeping things. We are recording this session. It'll be posted on our YouTube channel and sent out on our other social media channels. I know there were a group of people who wanted to attend and were unable to come this morning. So that is for you. You're able to watch it whenever you can, listen to it while you're driving in your car. We have everybody muted. It's not because we don't want to hear your conversation, but we want to see your pets in the video screen in the background, but maybe don't want to hear them. So you're welcome to unmute yourself. You can also turn your video on and off, whatever you feel comfortable with. I do hope that we're able to have a discussion today. So feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, interject, do whatever. I always want to give people the opportunity, if you want to ask a question or you want to have something said privately where you want it to be known, but you don't want your business name or your personal name associated with it, you're welcome to use the private chat function here on Zoom. Send a chat to me directly instead of sending it to everyone, or you can send it to my mobile number and send me a text message. My phone number is 512-373-0824. So if you need that, and you all have it in my email signature as well. So we are looking for ways always to stay connected and to keep local business owners connected, both with the community that AIBA is creating and curating and running, but also to keep you connected with each other. So the purpose of these June meetings on Tuesday mornings is the world is moving very, very quickly, obviously, and we want to make sure that people have the information. And I, of course, am doing newsletter communication, email communication. We're doing all these different ways. This is a format that we can talk about things that are happening very quickly, and also that we can bounce ideas off of each other. There may be some things that you're experiencing on the ground as a local business owner, or from hearing from your customers that we are not necessarily privy to, that would be really helpful for other business owners to know, or that are creating situations that you need assistance with, that we can either advocate for you with the powers that be, or we can connect you to resources that are going to help you get through whatever that is. So the first thing I want to say is we're going to talk about communication a little bit later. I want to encourage our members to, as you're opening up and as you're changing the way that you serve customers, as things are different, make sure you're continuing to submit those to latest from your locals. That's the easiest kind of funnel to get into with AIBA. We're able to put those up, we curate them and make sure that everything is spelled right and looking good, and then we're able to send that out on our social media platforms. So we also do some sharing of your content, which is also great, but the easiest way for us to share that, to make sure the message is right, we're just going to take your message and we're going to amplify it. So if you have a newsletter, please add us to that newsletter. We can pull content from there. We already do that for a lot of the people that I see that are on the call right now, but continue to do it. And then, so like Ben, if you want to add us to yours too, we'll make sure to add anything that you guys are doing. So that works for sales. It also works for just, we're doing curbside now, or we've stopped doing curbside and our doors are open, or whatever it is that you need to communicate. We're there to help amplify that message. So we're going to talk about funding. First, I want to make sure, just a super quick update, that everybody who applied for the PPP fund is aware that there was a new Protection Act that was passed, the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act, aptly named, I hope. And so what that does is it takes some of the issues that people were experiencing with the paycheck protection and extends them. So it extended the length of time that you had to use the loan from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. And then it also pushed the June 30th deadline back. So two big concerns for businesses right there. How can I spend this money? How can I rehire people when I'm still under stay-at-home orders? And so addressing some of those things. And then it also reduced, I'm going to look at the percentages. It reduced the share of funding that has to be directed towards payroll. So it loosened it up a little bit, that you could spend, instead of 25% on other items, you could spend 40% on other items. So those are really good changes. Your CPA or your tax professional, whoever it is that you're working with, who's helping you to kind of muddle through the PPP stuff, or maybe that's you as the person that are muddling through the PPP stuff. So I want to make sure you know about those changes. If you have questions, if you're the person who is doing it for your company and maybe you're not a CPA and need the assistance of one, we do have a couple of people who have reached out to us and offered free help for small local business owners. So if you're drowning in PPP paperwork, trying to figure out the forgiveness application, which is now available, you can go ahead and start looking at that. Reach out to us. Let me connect you with someone who can answer those questions so you don't Google yourself into a frenzy. So that's the PPP update. Another thing I want to mention before we move into the city funding slideshow that I want to show you guys from the work session last week, that there's a pilot program that Councilmember Leslie Poole is doing. And it's an interesting take on how to help restaurant and retail. And so the proposal is a quick permit turnaround situation that's going to allow restaurant and retail to use the public space outside of their buildings to expand their space in order to expand their ability to serve customers. So right now, if you can have 25% of people in your store, you have to keep everyone 6 feet apart. If I have a tiny retail store and it's 20 by 20, if I'm also allowed to use some of the parking spaces in the parking lot in front of me, I can double the number of customers that I can serve at a time. And I can also give my customers an outside area to be in and still shop or still eat. So it's definitely not a fix everything, but it's a great quick way to double your capacity, to have people feel more comfortable coming into your location to shop. So that is happening. It's a 30-day permit with a chance to renew. I've got details of that up on our members only Facebook page. Anyone who's a member, you should join there. All the first information goes to the Facebook page. So any grant opportunities we know about, go there first. So make sure you're on there, or your social media person. We can add your individual account or your business account, either one. So the details of it are up there. It is happening. It's going forward. I would love to hear if anybody's planning to use it. They're working on getting we don't know what the fee schedule will look like yet, but Councilmember Poole's office is working on getting the fees waived. So hopefully that will happen. So it'd be a free permitting process and let you expand your business operations temporarily. So that's happening. So now let's talk about city funding. So on May 7th, at the council meeting on May 7th, there was this fantastic meeting. We were so excited. They're going to give some of the CARES funding that we have, and it's actually going to go to local business, and what is it going to look like? So since May 7th, there have been council meetings and there have been several work sessions. So just last Thursday, there was a work session that had some detail in it, and that's what we're going to share here. I hope everyone can see my screen now. So this was a fairly large presentation. I will link to this in the notes, and when I send out the link to the video that we have, I'll make sure there's a link to this. So this is public information. This is coming from City Council. This whole presentation is talking about the full package of CARES funding and how we're planning to use it. This is the part that is about small and local business. So the economic recovery summary, you can see here, there is a large chunk of money made available for small business and rent aid. So this presentation was given at a special session last Thursday. Presentation was given quickly and then followed by hours of discussion. So this is not set in stone yet, but this is the current thinking of how we're going forward. So that 25.5 million right there in small business assistance, this is what the current breakdown is looking like. So I'm thrilled to say that the city is looking at grants for small business. So commercial loans for economic assistance and recovery, that's the CLEAR fund. They're thinking of allocating 23 million to that. Those would be grants of up to $40,000 for small businesses in 2 phases. You can see there, phase 1 being 10 million, and then phase 2 being 13.5. She did include Slanovia, who did present this, did include that profile of small business in Austin, which is just interesting to note what a huge part of the economic engine that small business is, that there are 40,000 businesses in Austin with fewer than 25 employees. That's incredible, and employ over 300,000 people. So that is the current thinking of the CLEAR Fund, that it would be a grant program. We don't yet know how it will be administered, who will administer it, how do you apply for it, any of the real pertinent information. But this is the thinking so far. Also, there's a $2 million fund for landlords for grant stability. So one of the big issues that we've talked to members about since the very beginning is rent assistance. So how can I, if I am under stay-at-home orders and I can't even go to work, how in the world am I supposed to generate revenue so that I can pay my lease? And what is the situation in talking with my landlord, and what is the landlord supposed to do who also has to pay somebody as we go up the chain? So long-term lease stability fund grants, again, there for $40,000 for landlords, with the stipulation that they agree to enter into favorable long-term leases. The details, the devil is always in the details. The devil is definitely in the details there with what is a favorable lease, what does long-term mean, how does that work for everybody, and who is administering this fund and making sure that all those things are in there. But exciting news, grant program for landlords. They also included $10 million for utility bill assistance. Some more details of that. They know that those programs would be administered by Energy and Water. So this is to keep the lights on, keep the doors open was the rent program, keep the people paid is the grant program, and then keep the lights on is the utility bill assistance program. In addition, I know we do have a lot of creative sector people, so I want to go ahead and show this here too. They also did some specific relief programs for music disaster, for creative spaces, and then creative sector. So you can see that creative sector is the smaller grants for individual people or much, much smaller organizations or independent workers. And then the musicians are kind of pulled out of that, you know, as the live music capital of the world. It's great to see some financial support going to the musicians who make us that live music capital of the world. So that's wrapped in right here. And then the other fund that was created at that May 7th meeting was the Anchor Fund, the Austin Nonprofit and Civic Health Association Fund. And the idea now is to have $7 million go to that. Again, that is a grant program with two phases there, grants ranging from $10,000 to $20,000. It's asked that these nonprofits, well, there's thousands of nonprofit workers, and you see that 20,000 people working for nonprofits in Austin, that the first phase of this is focused specifically on health and human services and, you know, on people who are working with individuals. So that's what that looks like. So there's additional information in here. The rest of the whole rest of how the budget is being spent is also included in this document. So slides 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 are the ones that we just went through. So I'll link that so everybody can look at it. But the good news coming out of this is at the May 7th meeting, when we were talking about how are we going to fund this, originally it was, we're going to do a loan program. And then we're going to have a couple of grants that go along with it. So to see that the current thinking now is almost exclusively grants is very, very exciting. Small businesses are already, the PPP is a loan program, the EIDL is a loan program, like they're getting loans from banks. So we're already having small businesses take on this massive amounts of debt with no kind of end game for when is the economy going to rebound and when are customers going to be coming back in so I can start to service this debt. So grant programs are where we have been focusing our efforts since the beginning, that we need massive and forgivable funding for small business. So it's so exciting to see that it looks like that is coming down the pipe. So this was the 28th that this was presented, hours and hours and hours of discussion. Very thankful for our city council members who are doing this very challenging work right now. There was a special session called on the 2nd of June. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what the notes of it are not up yet. And then there's another session for the 4th. And there was another one even between there. Of course, in between this presentation on Thursday and yesterday, the world's a different place. So I'm sure attention will be drawn away from this for a little bit, but I'm sharing this to note there's a little hope at the end of the tunnel for people who are hoping for funding from the city, and watch this space to figure out when it's all set up and it's ready to go, where do you go to apply, who's eligible, all of those questions. As soon as we have answers to those, this is where we're gonna share those. So I wonder if we'll stop right here. We have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to just wonder if there are any questions. Is that news to you? Were you aware that the funding was happening? And I mean, if there are none, I can also continue. I can continue my monologue if you like. So I'll just say.
You must have been so clear. There's no questions.
Right?
I had a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can.
You can't?
I can. I can't hear you.
I hear
okay.
you.
All right. On the first line, the 10 to 20, is that 10 to 20,000? Is that per grant or is that total?
Let's see.
It's on that one.
For the nonprofits.
For the nonprofit?
Yeah, for the nonprofits. Grants between 10 to 20. Is that total or is that per?
So I think that's a great question, Ben.
Per grant.
I think that is per grant.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So $10,000 to $20,000 per grant. And so part of the discussion that is happening is there are also contracts already that have been funded and then also shorn up with more funding, more CARES funding, contracts with organizations like the RISE organization that is already addressing a bunch of these needs. So this anchor fund is for nonprofit. It's for all nonprofit organizations, and it's for people who are working in human service. But this is kind of addressing the other ones, like not that there are, you'll see when this is all kind of voted in, there are big organizations that are named, like the RISE Fund is one that comes up a lot. So the RISE Fund is doing health and human services work, and they have kind of their own pocket of money. This is an additional pocket of money to help that. And I don't want to speak for council, obviously, but from my understanding of it from listening to the discussion is the idea here is to not reinvent the wheel, right? So we're, as a city, as a country, as a world, we're in this crisis situation right now. So if we have nonprofits who are on the ground right now, who already have relationships with the people who need help, who already have systems and processes set up to deliver help to people where they need it, that are meeting people where they are, why would we try to create something else to do that when we could fund the places who are already doing it? So I think the idea of this is to do that, is to say, if you're already, if you're doing this, if you're, and Arch is a different situation, but if just as using them as an example, they're already meeting people's needs right there. So funding them instead of trying to build another place for people to go or another place for people to get services. But yeah, it's very exciting. And the numbers that economic development pulled together there, that there are 4,400 nonprofits in Austin. Like we're definitely a city that loves helping other people. And that just says a lot right there, that there's more than 4,000 nonprofits there and 20,000 people working in them. I'm also very excited to see some of the funding go to the creative sector, creative disaster, the space disaster, and specifically to musicians. That is, musicians and artists often don't think of themselves as businesses, but they are. They don't have to be, I guess. But if you're creating and you're selling something and that's your livelihood, then you are your own business. And so it's great to see them being recognized by economic development for needing that same kind of funding that everyone else needs. So the last thing that we were going to do, I'll stop the share here. So I'll make sure to share that when I share everything else. And I don't yet have any details of eligibility requirements, date, what kind of information do I need to have pulled together so that I can be ready to apply. But absolutely, as soon as I know anything, I have reached out to my contacts at the city to ask, what is the I know that you can't give me any inside information, but just what's the path? Like, what are we looking at? Are we going to vote at the next meeting and then we're going to have something out to people, or is it going to be another month, or whatever it is? Those messages from me probably got lost in the panic over the weekend. But we'll keep knocking on that door because this funding is important to keep small business going. So the other thing that we were going to run through, I think I'll hold it until next week. We were going to run through a quick communication plan. The people who I see who are on here with me have their communication plans down, nailed, and done. So we'll save that for next time. And just as a teaser for next time, what we'll do is it's just a very quick talk, and it's gleaned from some information from the National Chamber of Commerce website. It's a really clear guide for how do you communicate with your stakeholders in times of crisis. So it just lists who are your stakeholders. Are you sure that you're getting everyone? And then what do you need to tell them? Make sure you're checking all these boxes. Make sure you're reiterating what you're doing to keep them safe. Make sure you're reiterating why they should be comfortable shopping with you, the importance of, them coming in as customers. So we'll run through that kind of in detail next time. Real quick before we go, it's just a few minutes before 10. We're going to do this every Tuesday in June, and I hope that we can have more people join us next time. One thing that I'm going to do is bring in a couple of speakers, and I'm not sure who's going to come on what date, but the three topics that we're going to pull on are, I have someone coming to talk about, obviously the thing that is happening right now is that we have to figure out how to communicate with one another about how to have conversations in the business world about the injustice in the world that we're seeing in the communities of color, and to have someone coming in from an organization that works with people on, like, how do you talk about this? Like, how do you even start a conversation? How do I make sure that I think that my workplace is inclusive, and I think that everyone is being heard, and I think that everyone feels comfortable, but how do I start a conversation to make sure that that's happening? We put out a call yesterday for our members and anyone who is part of the local business community in Austin to join us in doing the work to fight that injustice. And so bringing someone in to have a conversation with us and get us started on, if you're feeling uncomfortable what to do next, we're going to kind of give you a checklist. So here's what you can start doing. So that we can do that. Also have somebody come in and walk through the PPP application, not in I'm a CPA and I'm going to look at your books, but to walk through the application just in an overview kind of way. There are some things in there that were surprising to me that I looked at, and I would not have been tracking that as a business owner. I didn't really know that was important. So to make sure that people are looking at that, so you can pull your books together in the right way before things get too out of hand. And then I have lost the third one. It's gone out of my mind. So hopefully it'll come back to me. So we do have 5 in June, or maybe we'll see what the situation calls for and go on from there. So we'll start next week, unless the world has changed incredibly. We'll start next week with that quick communication update and walk through that real quick, and then do our big topic. I'll just open it up. We have just a few minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? You can ask me anything about local business. You can ask me about how excited I am that the transformer that blew right outside the house before we started the meeting didn't actually take the power down, and we were able to finish the whole meeting. And even though there are 15 workmen in the front yard, my dog didn't bark once. So he's going to get done, right? I appreciate you all joining today. Ben, thank you for coming. Charlie, thank you for coming. Nick, thanks for joining us. And Amber, I know we didn't speak with you. I'm sorry, I can't remember which Amber you are, but I'm glad you were able to join. So I'll post this just as soon as we're done. I'll send a link to the city document that we looked at if anybody wants to look through that. And then that will be, you'll all have my email address if you have anything that you want to talk about, or if you have a topic that you'd like to cover at another Tuesday, let me know and we'll get somebody in to talk about it. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Dixie.
Thanks.
Y'all have a great day. Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye.